Welcome to Budapest. The Danube has flooded its banks here. We're in a state of emergency. Michael Schumacher donating €1 million, over £600,000 to flood victims in his native Germany. The Hungaroring some 12 miles from us in the city centre, so no threat there. In qualifying, a new young British driver is thrown in at the deep end. He's 23-year-old Anthony Davidson, replacing Alex Young at Minardi for at least the next 2 races. Strange car, dirty circuit in borrowed overalls, Davidson's first out. And that's solid, but not quick enough to qualify. As the track quickens, the big hitters emerge. Jenson Button spins in front of a flying Barrichello, and that ruins a potential pole. In practice, Davidson's driven more than the race distance, 83 laps, 205 miles, and all that hard work pays off. He improves by over a second and secures his place on the starting grid. Barrichello's never been the pole sitter in Hungary. He's got the edge over his teammate throughout the session. That's the qualifying record round this complicated and slippery circuit. It's a good track for Jordan. Giancarlo Fisichella gets ahead of the very disappointing McLarens. 5th, his best of the year. In contrast, Jacques Villeneuve wrestles with the BAR and again comes off second best to Panis. Late on, Schumacher makes a desperate charge. Barrichello's response, another improvement. The Brazilian gets pole and the clean side of the track. And all Williams, second row. Only Nigel Mansell's won here, starting out of the top 3. Fisichella, Trulli and Massa, all with their best of 2002. Button just makes the top 10. A horror story for McLaren, their worst position in 5.5 years. Jaguars struggling for the right setup, the Arrows, non-runners, and Anthony Davidson, one of 5 British drivers in the Hungarian Grand Prix. Your commentators Martin Brundle and James Allen.
We're all watching those lights. And now they're out, and now they're going! Has Barrichello done enough off the line? It looks as though he has! Look at the 2 Williamses! And Fisichella, superb start down the pit wall side. Fisichella up to 4th, and the Ferrari nearly gets passed by the Williams there. I believe that's Schumacher, and I think it's Ralf Schumacher who nearly got him into turn 1, but it looks as though Rubens Barrichello has safely got away well. But a blinding start by the McLarens as well. That look as though making away upfield. A little bit of contact there between Button and Montoya.
Indeed, I think Coulthard tried to go around the outside of turn 1, and then Raikkonen was the man moving in turn 2 in the McLarens. But at the moment, Barrichello from Michael Schumacher, Ralf Schumacher, Fisichella up to 4th, Massa 5th, Button 6th. Tremendous start from Button. Montoya's fallen back to 7th. Raikkonen did make a move up to 8th. Trulli and Heidfeld then is 10th.
Well, they were all saying he had to make the move from the start. It's the easiest place to pass at this Hungaroring circuit. We've got 77 hot, sweaty, very difficult laps here this afternoon. Expecting most drivers to do 2 stops and for strategies to be broadly the same, although some cars may carry a little bit more fuel than others. We're expecting the first men to come in the late lap 20s, but you can see that Raikkonen is looking particularly racy. Quick in the morning warm-up this morning, and he wants to get through this field.
Yes, indeed. So when we see a replay, we've got to watch out for Montoya. He slipped back down the field. Montoya was the loser. Definitely, though, Fisichella 4th, Massa in particular 5th. Tremendous starts from them. And there was a good scrap in the middle of the pack, as I think there was a touch of contact, but obviously no major damage. Yeah, Massa under a lot of pressure this weekend. Peter Sauber has been growing impatient with the mistakes that young Felipe Massa's been making, but a tremendous start from 9th up to 5th for him. And I think Coulthard just made a move on Heidfeld for 10th place too. Coulthard taking Heidfeld into turn 1. Well, one of the other big losers from the start, we didn't notice, Olivier Panis went from 12th down to 19th place, but no doubt that Fisichella, Massa, well up, Montoya a loser as well, Raikkonen a good start. So Barrichello leads by half a second from teammate Michael Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher 2.5 seconds behind Barrichello in 3rd. Fisichella 4th, Massa 5th, 6th is Button, 7th Montoya, 8th Raikkonen, 9th Jarno Trulli in the Renault, and 10th, we believe David Coulthard has passed Nick Heidfeld. Anthony Davidson is in the race, going strongly, and he's just behind Olivier Panis. Ironically, the car he tests from Monday to Friday, the BAR, has dropped back to right in front of him.
and his teammate Mark Webber in the Minardi is in 18th place and slightly pulling away from Anthony at the moment.
So the McLarens are looking feisty. Raikkonen all over the back of Montoya, and Coulthard also over the back of the Renault of Trulli. That is for 7th and 8th and 10th, 9th and 10th, I should say. And there then, look at Raikkonen harassing the Williams and Montoya. Montoya falls second behind his teammate in qualifying, cannot find the car to his liking, and still it's not working for him well in the race. It'll be interesting to see how much fuel Montoya turns out to have on board, but at this time he's on his back foot.
Another man who's going well, Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar, up from 16th place on the grid to 13th. And really, as I was saying before, Jaguar under considerable pressure now with the news that Eddie Jordan has tied up that deal with the Ford Motor Company, the parent of Jaguar. A very strange deal as far as the Jaguar people are concerned. Niki Lauda working very hard to try and stop the deal from happening, we understand, but the deal was done above his head. So it would be very interesting to see how much longer Lauda is at the helm of that team and exactly what the Ford Motor Company decides to do. Here's a replay of the start, though.
And that then was the safety car coming into the early part of the shot, so watching the Toyota at the back of the field. Now let's see what happens as we're watching. Look at Ralf Schumacher getting away very well, but doesn't make it past. And it seems as if Montoya just got a poor start and then got blocked into turn 1. Jarno Trulli, who has lost some places too. Jarno Trulli has lost 3 places in the Grand Prix, so some other problems on the track at the moment. And there you see the yellow Jordan moving up into 4th place. So Montoya just getting away slowly and then getting boxed in, basically.
Yes, it really did come down to who was on the clean side, which is the right-hand side, and who was on the dirty. Look at Montoya, how much ground he loses to the fast-charging Fisichella. Goes right past him, and so does Trulli. And that's the thing. You see, you start near the pit lane, wall side, and that's the dirty side of the track, if you like. It's not the racing line. As we work on lap 5, the Ferraris are already 10 seconds ahead of Montoya and Raikkonen, so those two very much in a private scrap. As we look at Jenson Button going through the frame, very strongly running in 6th place at the moment. Already had 4 point scoring positions this season. And can he get another one here this afternoon? Anthony
Davidson is starring on the computer for having run off into the runoff area turn 11, the fast right-hander. We think he's continued, and he's lost just a couple of seconds doing that, so obviously just ran wide in that fast turn 11. Off screen, we haven't seen it happen, but it's up here on the computer to say he's had a drama, but he is still in the race.
That's the battle then between Raikkonen and Montoya for 7th place. Montoya been a bit out of sorts the last 2 Grand Prix after a tremendous run of form, 5 consecutive pole positions and some pretty bad luck, certainly in Canada and Monaco with reliability, where both of those races he really could and should have won had the car stayed together. He certainly put Ralf Schumacher in the shade, and certainly in the last couple of races you have to say Ralf Schumacher's putting him in the shade, out qualifying him for this Grand Prix by a full second, which I never thought I'd see this season.
No, but remember, on the back of all those Montoya poles, Frank Williams came out and said, I need Ralf Schumacher to go faster. He's not doing a good enough job. And Frank would tell any camera or microphone or anybody that cared to listen that. And since then, you have to say, Ralph's really picked up his game, certainly to the detriment of Montoya, who's in 7th and struggling at the moment. There's Ralf up in 3rd place, now 6 seconds behind the leading pair. Barrichello maintaining an 0.8 of a second gap. This is a replay of that run down to the first corner. You can see the Jordan on your left of your screen making a great start, and Montoya now on the defensive. When you get away slowly, you just can't make it up. There then is Coulthard trying to go around the outside. He eventually loses out, and it's Raikkonen on the inside McLaren that really makes some hay into turn 2. On board then with the Renault of Jarno Trulli, and look how easy it was to sweep past Montoya. And what is Trulli going to do when he gets down? He's quite cautious, actually, and Massa is the braver one round the outside, and Button also saying, I'll have a bit of that, and Trulli badly losing out because he was too cautious.
He lost about 4 or 5 places just in that whole first corner zone.
Totally unnecessarily, and there I think goes the McLaren for good measure.
Lap 12 of the Hungarian Grand Prix. Positions remain unchanged, no major incidents. Michael Schumacher still hunting down Rubens Barrichello, who is leading this motor race. Ralf Schumacher is still 3rd for BMW Williams. 4th in the Jordan Honda is Fisichella, and this is the young fella making his Grand Prix debut here this weekend, Anthony Davidson from Hemel Hempstead. becomes yet another British driver to make it into Grand Prix. British drivers have dominated the World Championship rankings anyway. They've won more world titles than any other nation. Will this fella join them one day in the future? A bit early to say, but certainly the prognosis has been good this weekend. He's kept his teammate Mark Webber, who's highly rated. He's kept him honest and qualified within half a second of him. Currently running last, but not letting Panis get away from him.
No, he's not indeed. We saw him, we heard that he lost 2 seconds by running wide in turn 11, the fast corner, but he's still only 2.7 seconds behind his teammate, who's 18th, and 1.7 behind Panis. So Anthony's now got a solid run going, and apparently his first target this afternoon is to make the pit stop. Louise, what can you tell us?
I actually had a quick chat with Anthony on the grid before the start of the race. He said to me his real aim today is just to keep his nose clean. One of his most important jobs is going to be keeping out of the way when he's being lapped, which isn't particularly easy to do at this track because of the lack of straights. He's actually not familiar with that being lapped either. If you think about it, he's used to running at the front of the field. I think what the team will try and do is ensure, as much as they can anyway, that he gets lapped in the pits. So they'll devise their strategy accordingly. I think the leaders will be coming up on him around lap 18, maybe a bit earlier. The team will probably let the first couple of drivers past and then bring him in for his first stop when he's got the pack nipping on his heels.
Nah, forget all that. Let him race. He's a big boy. He can handle that. They should just pit stop him at the right moment for his strategy. You never know in these Grand Prix when he can score a World Championship point, as Minardi well know from this year's Australian Grand Prix. They don't need to mollycoddle him that much. When I drove the late, great Ken Tyrrell, I used to get called in on a Monday, and I'd be shown how much time I lost as the leaders came past me. And I'd get quite a bit of stick, actually. And Ken would say to me, bless his soul, would say to me, do you know how much it would cost me to give you another 3 seconds in a Grand Prix? When they're coming past, make them go the long way around. Of course, that was in the days before waving blue flags and punishments if you didn't leap straight out of the way. And I think we've lost a great skill in Grand Prix drivers of having to make your way through the back markers with skill and daring, rather than them having to jump out of the way like scolded cats as soon as the blue flag waves. But nonetheless, Anthony needs to run his own race.
Yes, I agree with that, actually, Martin. And the other thing that I think he's shown adequately this weekend is that he is a very quick learner. He's adapted very quickly to Grand Prix racing. Although he knew how to drive a Formula 1 car from his many miles in the BAR, he certainly learned very, very quickly this weekend. And he's having a fine time. Although I have to say he's just lost 2 seconds relative to Olivier Panis whilst we've been talking about him. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. We didn't see it. But Barrichello still leading on lap 15 from Michael Schumacher. The gap just opening up a little bit now. Michael Schumacher dropping half a second relative to his teammate. Ralf Schumacher still third. Fisichella fourth. 5th Massa, 6th Button, 7th Montoya, 8th Raikkonen, 9th Trulli. Lap 21 of 77 in the Hungarian Grand Prix. It's an all-Ferrari affair at the front. We're about 9 laps away from, well, maybe even 7 laps away from the first round of pit stops. Ralf Schumacher still third, Fisichella fourth, Massa fifth, Button sixth. Positions unchanged, but something that is changed is how close these 3 cars are. Jenson Button in 6th place, 7th Montoya and 8th Kimi Raikkonen. They are right together on the racetrack. A small gap back to Trulli, and that's Jacques Villeneuve in trouble on the pit lane exit. First retirement of the afternoon for the British American racing car, and that is in a rather awkward place.
Indeed it is, but there is a service road close by. If they just push it around the corner, unfortunately, they're going to go backwards or forwards. Maybe there's a bit of space on the grass. I'd have thought it's uphill there. They'd be better to push it around the corner, and it looks like the engine dying out on him just as he headed down there into turn 1. If he lets it coast a little bit further, yes indeed, there's a service road there, and Villeneuve then, his miserable season continues. He was in 12th place before he retired.
Whoa, go running wide there, absolutely. Montoya and Raikkonen is going to capitalise on it. Well, we saw a fantastic scrap between these two at Hockenheim 3 weeks ago, wheel to wheel for a sequence of 5 or 6 corners. It was mesmerising stuff. And on that occasion, Montoya managed to get past Raikkonen, who had to get off the throttle. But Montoya making a little mistake there, perhaps under pressure from Raikkonen.
And Raikkonen didn't really punish him enough. Raikkonen decided to get all active on the way into the last corner, where he'll never overtake. And instead of just calmly lining himself up, and he missed a chance to put Montoya under more pressure, but Montoya really struggling for grip, and Raikkonen tries to go right round the outside, now has track position for turn 3, and Montoya tried to hold on to it and could do nothing about it at all, and got passed by Trulli and Coulthard all at the same time. So he tried to hang on in there, but Raikkonen found himself with track position.
Not bad for a rookie, hey? Well, he's in his second season in Formula 1, but Montoya's in trouble.
Left front tyre's gone. Montoya with a big problem on his left front tyre. Tremendous understeer there from him. There he already going wide, look back there, and that's where he got out of shape in turn 12. So I think he's damaged the underneath of the car somewhere. Here's another replay, James, look.
Yes, you can see just the parts of the wing end fence there you see underneath the car, flying up in the air.
That's why he's got so much understeer then, and why Raikkonen was able just to drive around the outside of him in turn 2, and still Montoya wouldn't yield and ends up understeering straight onto the grass.
Williams mechanics out in the pit lane. This is a sick motor car. It's coming into the pits on lap 23. It's a good time for him to have to do it in a way, because you're in the pit stop window for first stops. It's not the end of the world for Montoya, but losing that track position to Raikkonen and Trulli and Coulthard, that really is bad news for the Colombian.
I don't really understand why his rain light was flashing, unless there's some kind of electrical gremlin. Sometimes they use that rain light as a... Ted, how's it going down there?
Well, Patrick Head's been gesturing distinctly. He wanted Montoya to stay out for another couple of laps to push him a bit further into his two-stop window. Anyway, he's put new tyres on and a bit of fuel, an early two-stop. They didn't pay much attention to those extremities of that car, though.
No, because I think the piece that came off fits around the suspension as Davidson, I think it is, really gets wrong-footed as Montoya comes out of the pit. The piece that's flying off fits amongst the suspension and takes a while there. I'm rather surprised they didn't change the front wing, though. I think Montoya is going to be slow when he rejoins. I think he's still going to have an understeering car, as Barrichello, as you're watching Montoya replay through turn 3, Barrichello's absolutely put the hammer down out there now, where then smashed the new fastest lap, but still pieces falling off that Williams, and those aerodynamic pieces, especially at the front of the car, are absolutely crucial. I'm surprised they didn't change the front wing.
Yes, problems for Montoya, but into the pits comes Anthony Davidson, just at the top of the frame. There it is, Anthony Davidson's first pit stop in Formula 1, a heart pounding, hoping, I imagine, that they don't spill fuel over him on his first visit to the pits. Everything looks in order, though, down at Minardi. Fuel aboard, the clock running on considerably. That was a neat stop by Minardi, around about 8 seconds, I would say, which is bang on target to take him through to around about lap 50.
And he's about to get the fright of his life as the Sauber of 5th place man Massa comes through to lap him, and this is Eddie Irvine saying it's over, it's over. And look, that's a lot, that's highly unusual for Eddie Irvine to show so much outward emotion. And there once again is Montoya in trouble just after he'd been lapped. His car now not handling at all well, missing those crucial aerodynamic pieces.
This is Raikkonen hunting down Jenson Button. This is the battle for 6th place, the final points-paying position here at Hungary. And Raikkonen has shown already this afternoon with that fight against Montoya that he's really hungry to make up for what was a disastrous qualifying session for him and the McLaren team, their worst since Argentina 1997. And that really is saying something. Raikkonen qualifying in 11th place. He's got himself up into 7th, but Button is not going to yield easily.
You looked a bit frustrated when you got out of that car, stomping around a bit. Are you getting fed up with all these retirements?
It's not ideal, especially today. The car, you know, we've had problems the last 2 days with the car. We found out what was wrong last night. We fixed it. The car was good in the warm-up, and it was going really well in the race. And had a misfire after about 8 laps, but it was still quick, much quicker than 2 cars in front. And then it just stopped.
Take your ice towel and cool down now.
Giancarlo Fisichella is into the pit lane, and there he is, you can see now on your screens. This is crucial for Jordan. It's a big weekend for them. Chance, if any of the top 3 have any kind of problems, of a podium for this guy. Very neat and tidy by Jordan. Terrific effort there. And Fisichella back out again and fueled now to go through to a lap 52 or 53, but he's not got out in front of the Sauber, and that is Nick Heidfeld who's got in front of him. Heidfeld yet to stop, though.
Yeah, that's right. So Fisichella would have been horrified if that was Massa's Sauber, but it's not. So Heidfeld, as you say, has yet to stop. So solid run then for the Jordan. He's got the pace on the track, a good pit stop, and they now move on into the second phase of the Grand Prix. Barrichello's just popped in another new fastest lap on a 1:17.1 up front. They're really trading blow for blow, as they know they've got to eke out or try to minimise the gap between these two Ferraris. So if Michael is hoping he can get in front of Rubens at the pit stop, one of the two pit stops this afternoon. We have Michael Schumacher then pits. Schumacher, second place man. That's why they've got the hammer down, of course. Barrichello's now into the 1:16.8, still hasn't quite broken the lap record, and a reasonable stop by Ferrari. And Barrichello, that's good news for him. He can stay out longer and hopefully have a traffic-free run and maintain track position.
But Ralf Schumacher's got past Michael Schumacher. Of course, Ralf still has to stop. There's Montoya, he's a lap down, so discount him. A lap down relative to Michael Schumacher anyway. So Ralf Schumacher now up into second place, and Michael drops to third, but Ralf has still got to make his stop. How much longer will the Williams go on with the fuel? It's gone, and Button's gone off! Jenson Button has thrown away a points-paying position. He was fifth, and he's now in the boonies.
Now, it'll be interesting to see if Raikkonen was involved in that or not, or whether he's just gone off all by himself. Anthony Davidson, I think they're getting out of the way, and he dropped his right rear wheel on the grass under braking. Looks like a fundamental driving error to me. I'm sure he'll get another replay, but I think he was slightly wrong-footed by the BAR. That's Massa stopping. Has he done enough to get in front of Fisichella? Can't see the Jordan anywhere. So
and the race leader's going to be pitting any time now. There's Jarno Trulli pitting from 7th, as we expect race leader Rubens Barrichello in. Ted, you down there?
Yes, James, Rubens Barrichello, of course, in the pits. Now he's looking for about 7 seconds, 7.8 seconds perhaps. That would be absolutely key for him. No problems with the stops. They clean out the side pods. He's away. 9 seconds. That's slow.
Yeah, 0.7 slower than his teammate, but he had a very good in-lap and a good hot lap, and I think he'll just do it. Look at that. Coming down the pit straight then is the Williams, and it's Montoya, the lap
Michael
Montoya,
right behind him, look.
and Rubens just stays in front of his teammate. Can he hold him off under braking for turn 2? Yes, he can. Montoya's still in terrible trouble with the handling of that car, and Barrichello retains the lead of the Grand Prix.
Well, Ferrari did it for their second driver. They got him out in front of their first driver. Michael Schumacher might well be hunting down his record 10th Grand Prix win of the season. Never been done before, but Rubens Barrichello has every intention of winning here this afternoon.
Marching down the paddock with Jenson Button. Jens, you just get that one wrong.
Yeah, I mean, Davidson went up in front of me onto the dirt, and I sort of came across a bit too far to the right and put 2 wheels on the curb, and that spun me round, so that was it really.
Spun you out of the points, didn't it?
Yeah.
Bad luck.
Yes, and Coulthard pits then from 5th, the first of the 2 McLarens to come in. He wants to be heading down that pit lane in and well under 9 seconds, and away he goes. That's good. That's fine. I think that puts Jarno Trulli under significant pressure. Let's look out. Trulli surely will be coming into the background, and yes, he is. So Coulthard will comfortably take that position.
Well, one man who's certainly had a very difficult day today is Juan Pablo Montoya. We saw him wheel to wheel with Kimi Raikkonen, losing the aerodynamic fences on the car. Ted, what can you tell us about his situation?
Well, James, there's been so much harumphing by Patrick Head around the Williams garage. It was actually a large chunk of the floor which has been ripped off Montoya's car. He's been over the radio shouting, this car is undrivable, I can't do anything with it. The team then have been back on the radio saying, look, keep going, this is Hungary, anything can happen, you never know. But Martin, if you were trolling around in 11th place with an undrivable Williams, would you keep going?
Never, ever, ever give up. He's up into 11th place. He's slow, but not that slow. And as Patrick's absolutely right, he's an old hand. He knows there are points to be had on any afternoon. You never know in this game, but the fans deserve you to be out there. And, you know, you shouldn't. There's no excuses at this level for parking a car that's moderately healthy.
Look at this, though. This is Raikkonen closing right up on Massa. He's taken a big chunk out of him whilst we've been talking on this last lap. And Massa obviously having either some sort of problem, but it's allowed Raikkonen to get a lot closer to him on lap 44, and now we're going to see something.
Yeah, Raikkonen put a good move on, albeit an ailing Montoya, missing some aero pieces. Will Massa throw this in the bin? An important moment for Massa. He knows who's behind him.
As one of the McLaren goes off.
It looks like it's obviously Coulthard, and the second of the two cars, because we didn't see another McLaren flash through. So Coulthard has run wide then down at what must have been, it's turn 12, isn't it? It's the fast chicane out the back. Coulthard's going to turn in, and there's that big wide curb on the exit. Oh, so nearly lost the back end on the way through. He may just get away with that. He's on the less bumpy part of the gravel trap. Montoya was half gravel, half grass, and lost some aero pieces. So Ron Dennis muttering something pretty unmentionable. I wouldn't be at all surprised there. And where is Coulthard? He has recovered. He's still within spitting distance. But that may have cost him a chance of leapfrogging Massa at the next pit stop.
This, though, the two Ferraris out the front, 23 seconds the lead over Ralf Schumacher. It's not really about whether anybody other than Ferrari will win this afternoon. What it's about is whether Michael Schumacher will somehow get ahead of teammate Rubens Barrichello. And the way it's looking at the moment, it's going to have to be in the pit stops. He nearly did it first pit stop. Will he do it second pit stop? So some terrific scraps going on between 5th, 6th, 7th places. Massa, Raikkonen and Coulthard. Anthony Davidson is still out there. He's 32 seconds now, clawing it back a little bit, the margin between himself and teammate Mark Webber. Davidson in 17th place. But still at the front, the two Ferraris, Barrichello and Michael Schumacher. And we are around about half a dozen laps away from the second round of pit stops.
Fisichella pits. He was in 4th place. Fisichella then, and that is a solid stop again for the #1 Jordan.
Is he going to get held up by the Toyota on the way out? He's behind the Toyota, is he? No, the Toyota's behind him. Yep, so he clears that. And Fisichella looking set fair for some big points today. He's had 3 5th places so far this season, a sequence of them, 3 in a row in the mid part of the season. And this is looking good for 4th place today for Giancarlo Fisichella. De La Rosa and Sarlo, these two are racing for position. Sarlo was 13th and De La Rosa was 14th, so another little pit race, if you like. Let's see who wins this one. Jaguar. I think, oh, it's going to be close, this one. Oh, it's going to be very close. It's too close. I've seen a few of those at close quarters. It's not a nice feeling when they've got racing cars hurtling at each other in the pit lane.
There's a lot of energy going on, all nicely fueled up, of course, and De La Rosa did well to get out of that one. That was going to be a guaranteed accident. Sarlo probably couldn't even see him. Your mirrors are pointing in a small range behind you, and you're coming across at an angle. And that really was extremely close, wasn't it? They're showing a replay there. I hope it's not because they're going to penalise Fisichella for taking an awful lot of white line. Now watch this again. Jaguar faster than Toyota on the pit stop, but because of the distance down the pit lane, look, and Sarlo, so close. De La Rosa doing well to avoid an accident.
This is Nick Heidfeld in 8th place in the Sauber, about to be lapped, would you believe, by the two Ferraris. Felipe Massa in the other Sauber we're expecting in any moment. In fact, he is in the pit lane now. And this is the man who's racing against the two McLarens, Ted.
This is a great battle between Massa and Raikkonen, James. Massa stops now. There are no problems with his stop. But Raikkonen can go for 4 more laps before he has to come in. And now is the time for Kimi Raikkonen to max it out, see if he can get past him. I'd put my money on McLaren on this one.
Certainly with those 3 cars that are now in front of, you can see the traffic as he gets out, and that's Fisichella. So Fisichella was very close to losing 4th place to Massa. That tells you something.
It was indeed. So the McLarens are looking strong then, and Coulthard's closed that gap back up to 1.3 seconds to his teammate. So the McLarens running line astern as Ralf Schumacher pits from a distant 3rd position in both directions, 26 seconds behind the leaders and 37 seconds ahead of the McLarens. So Ralf then can afford to just coast out. He's got a podium slot at the moment, but he can do nothing about improving his race position other than reliability problems for the Ferrari, which we haven't seen too many of.
Aye, this is Anthony Davidson. You can just see at the top of your frame, in for his 2nd stop of the afternoon. He was just 5.5 seconds behind teammate Mark Webber. This will drop him back a bit further. Whoa, that's lively.
Yeah, you better to get a wheel spin than to let the engine die out. Raikkonen's just done his fastest lap of the Grand Prix. And in then is Michael Schumacher. So Schumacher, the first Ferrari to stop. Now Barrichello's got to put in a stunner. He did a 17.3 last time around. Barrichello needs his best lap of the day right now because Michael's had a great pit stop. So now it's down to Rubens, hot lap and in lap. And Michael will be seething that Heidfeld has come out of the pits in front of him. Past goes Montoya. He's out of contention. He's a lap behind.
So is Rubens in traffic or is Rubens in clear air? That could well decide the outcome of the Hungarian Grand Prix because Michael Schumacher is very definitely in traffic. He's got Nick Heidfeld in front of him. There are waved blue flags because Heidfeld has been lapped once before. So this is pretty tense stuff because we're expecting Rubens Barrichello in any time now. Ferrari mechanics are standing in the pit lane, ready for the race leader. And, well, it's going to be very interesting. There is the race leader.
And he's had a good lap. He's equalled his best first sector. He's his personal best in the middle of the lap and a clear track. So Rubens, providing this pit stop goes according to plan, surely must rejoin in the lead of the Grand Prix. But we saw how close it was last time. Rubens looking a little bit pedestrian through that last corner, I have to say. Wasn't really attacking that pit in because that's before the speed limit. Coasts onto his slot. And I wonder if he'll get punished for being a little bit too tardy on the way in. But again, another great stop from the Ferrari team. I think he'll just do it, won't he, James? There's Michael coming around the last corner. He still hasn't cleared. Where's the Sauber? Yes, he has cleared the Sauber somewhere. Look how close it's going to be. Get off the limiter quick, Rubens. And yes, he's just going to make it.
See, it's not even as close as last time. A little bit of a margin to spare. He could have had a cup of tea before he came out, but it was very, very close after the first stop as Montoya comes in as well. Rubens Barrichello leads. Whoa, that was close. As Panis, I believe, yes, it is Panis, of course, dived into the pit lane. He very, very nearly collided with Juan Montoya. Well, we had Salo and De La Rosa almost tangling in the pit lane, and now we've almost had another crash. They'll certainly be looking at the pit lane safety after this one. But look at Raikkonen. He seems to have knocked... Doesn't he knock some bodywork off? He was so wide up on the curb on the way in.
I think it was just a bit of debris on the curb, James. He was just giving it plenty. Ted's down there.
The car looks fine. I can't see any signs of any stuff being knocked off that car. Just taking a look at the Michelins coming off. They're in very good shape, James. This really is another example of how the way McLaren are so kind to their tyres, how that's giving them such a benefit again in races.
Absolutely, and I think Raikkonen, as we see a Minardi off the road, and it's Davidson. Davidson has dropped it somewhere around the racetrack in the middle sector. He was in 17th place. He stops her in the middle, and where is it? It's turn 8. He's got wide into turn, on the way into turn 8. Never made the final part of the corner. What a shame for him.
Yeah, he managed all but 16 laps of his Grand Prix debut. Anthony Davidson spinning out on lap 62. Pretty relaxed atmosphere up on the Ferrari stand. How much they would love to clinch that Constructors' Championship. They did it here again last year. How much they'd love to clinch it with another 1-2 finish. It's amazing, really, isn't it? We talk about objectives. They came here this weekend saying the objective is the Constructors' title, and it's also to help Rubens in his quest for second in the World Championship. And really every objective that Ferrari have set themselves this season, they've achieved. Tremendous domination technically, tremendous performance to get Michael Schumacher to the driver's title, and they're just chipping away at these objectives. And what's really awesome, Martin, is that with Luca de Montezemolo, the president of Ferrari, now signed up to the end of 2006, he's now saying, I want to tie down Ross Brawn, Jean Todt, Rory Byrne, the key technical men there, until the end of 2006. And who knows, he may even manage to persuade Schumacher to go on that long.
Yes, indeed. I mean, we were looking, where's the chink in the armour? We've seen teams have dominant periods in Grand Prix racing. Of course, Williams and McLaren have had several of those. And you think, hang on, how can this stop? But then De Montezemolo looked like he was legging it and saying goodbye. And you thought, is that the beginning of a different era for Ferrari? But he's now staying. The parent company, Fiat, are struggling along financially, it seems, if you believe everything you read in the financial press. That may have an impact on how much money Ferrari can spend into the future. but at the moment they seem unstoppable, unassailable. But Michael Schumacher is about to set a new lap record for this racetrack. He's done a PB and a fastest of anybody, Sector 1, Sector 2, start-finish lines coming up. If he can beat a 1:16.7, we have a new lap record. It's a 1:16.2. There's a lot of chins on the pit wall all the way down the paddock here in Hungary, just to say, OK, boys, let me just show you how fast we could have gone this weekend. He's now only 0.6 of a second behind Michael. Done a 1:16.2 to blitz the lap record.
Behind Rubens, yeah, indeed. Rubens Barrichello coasting along in the lead, and that's an interesting signal that Ferrari have chosen to send out to everybody else. A 16.2 at this late stage, 2.5 seconds faster than the pace that BMW Williams of Ralf Schumacher and the McLaren Mercedes of Raikkonen and Coulthard are managing. That's probably Ross Brawn just, well, wry smile on his face. I wonder if that was Michael's initiative to do that lap or Ross's.
That would be Michael having a bit of fun to a certain extent, unless Ross also worked out that the pace was slower than last year and fancied a lap record, another sort of bit of jewellery to put in the box, really. But now Michael's slowed right down again, but we're steering the 6th consecutive straight win for Ferrari here, very much in the face, and but they're just having a laugh out there, really. I mean, Ross is so not under pressure. It's been a no banana strategy race, hasn't it, for Ross? We haven't seen him having to take to the bananas this race at all.
3-year Ford deal, and all of a sudden Jordan's looking rosy again. That's the way Formula One works. It's just an incredible roller coaster. At the moment, obviously the Arrows team are the ones that are down. They pulled in a fantastic sponsorship with Orange just a couple of years ago. Things were looking very rosy when they got a Cosworth engine supply. And now look at them. They aren't here. And things are looking very, very difficult indeed. That's Formula One.
I think Arrows will get a deal together in the end. Let's look down any final scraps out there. Amazingly, Montoya, with a car he says is undrivable, is now just homing in on the back of Sato for 10th place. It's a few tenths between them. Coulthard's was beginning to rein Raikkonen back in, but I think as they're going through quite a lot of traffic, lapping some traffic, so really no major scraps. Heidfeld has not managed to take away True Lead's 8th position. So Barrichello leads by a fraction then from a coasting Michael Schumacher. Ralf Schumacher now just 17 seconds behind them. Raikkonen 34 seconds down in 4th. Coulthard 7 seconds down the road from his teammate Raikkonen. Fisichella 6th. Massa 7th, Trulli 8th, Heidfeld 9th, Sato just hanging on to 10th from Montoya.
If you're just joining us, Rubens Barrichello has led this race from the start. He came under considerable pressure from Michael Schumacher at both of the pit stops, but he was able to hold on. The first time was very close, the second time not quite so close. Anthony Davidson, the Grand Prix debutant, managed to get to all but 16 laps on his first run in a Grand Prix, and Rubens Barrichello at the front now. Martin, driver of the day. Been some interesting performances. A few people let themselves down as well today, but Rubens?
Yeah, of course. Pole position, great start. I think he was genuinely under pressure in the early stages, and really faultless performance, isn't it? And I think Massa's done a solid job, although he's not going to get a World Championship point. Fisichella's done well too, but really you would have to say Rubens Barrichello, the star of the day, and Michael Schumacher there just going to diligently follow him home.
Rubinho then crosses the line to win his 2nd Grand Prix of the season, and with it clinched the 2002 Constructors' Championship from Ferrari. A dominant performance, and let's face it, what has been a truly dominant season. 4 years in a row now they've won the Constructors. Ralf Schumacher coming home in 3rd place, a distant and rather lonely race for him as well. Kimi Raikkonen, one of the real stars of the day, in 4th place. There's David Coulthard. He's going to come in 5th, and he crosses the line now, Kimi Raikkonen, to get that 4th place. A really stellar performance considering that he qualified down in 11th place on the grid. It's going to be a long party tonight here in Budapest for the Ferrari team. Rubens Barrichello leading home another Ferrari 1-2.
It just gets better and better for Barrichello in Hungary. 5th 4th, 2nd, now the top man in 2002. And we'll be right back with the opinions of Mark Blundell and the drivers' views of the Hungarian Grand Prix. You're back with us at the Hungaroring. Nelson Piquet produced the first victory here in 1986. We've seen 3 wins from Ayrton Senna, and now Rubens Barrichello is the latest Brazilian to triumph in Hungary. A 1-2 for Ferrari. That's the 5th this season. Ralf Schumacher, his first podium in Hungary. Both McLaren scoring, and that really is a result after their qualifying horrors. Fisichella, his first ever point from Budapest, as Ferrari claim their 12th Constructors' title.
Rubens, well done. 2nd win of the season. You must be delighted.
I am delighted. I think it's been a wonderful season. It is a season that I've always thought and said that it's been a good season, but you know, for one reason or the other, I could never conquer the points that I thought I could have. But it has turned up to a seriously good season with good qualifying and a good car and a good combination. I mean, I think I'm in a position that every driver dream of having a Ferrari team behind you, supporting you, so I'm just on the moon right now.
It shows how fantastic the teamwork is and sort of reliability, and because this is a title for the team, what the team is really doing, and that's something the guys can be very proud of.
It's very special for us because it reflects on the team, it reflects on the car. It's a championship where Ferrari are racing against BMW, Mercedes, the top car companies in the world, and we've managed to win the Constructors for the last 4 years, so it's a very important thing for us.
It's quite obvious that a team like us is not very happy with and satisfied with always coming 3rd. So it's now down to the team in total to change the situation. I mean, we have to. It's only 4 races to go, and it sounds more and more unrealistic, but we have to make it.
Juan basically had a bad start and a pretty bad first lap with a bump with Jensen, and then had Raikkonen behind him, and he made a mess of the chicane over there and went off and tore the aerodynamic devices off on the left-hand side of the car. And he immediately came on the radio saying he had a puncture, but he didn't have a puncture at all. He just had lost downforce, and so it was an unnecessary pit stop. And then he had problems with, obviously, lack of downforce, having damaged the car so much. So I'd say he had a pretty bad weekend altogether.
You know, everyone talks about Montoya. Undoubtedly, he is a great talent, very quick, talented racing driver, but they talk about him as if he's the heir apparent to Michael. And what I'd like to remind people is that being ballsy and defending your position is all fine and well, but if you then drive yourself off the circuit, then actually that's not being very smart. So maybe he's got big balls and a small brain.
You pleased with the weekend?
Yeah, I'm pretty pleased. Disappointed to have sort of got in the way of Jensen, and so I ended up ruining his race, I think. I'm really sorry about that, but it's a lot harder than what it looks.
So Hungarian winner Barrichello going 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. Ferrari's perfect season unfolding. The Williams pair neck and neck. Don't forget Ralf Schumacher won in Malaysia. Coulthard now the outsider for 2nd place, and Kimi Raikkonen, well, he was absolutely super today. Ferrari are the Constructors' champions. Williams looking odds-on for 2nd place. Both McLaren drivers in the points, and Fisichella adding just 1 to Jordan's tally. OK, Mark, let's look back at the start of this Hungarian Grand Prix. And I don't know if I was the only one, but I thought Ralf Schumacher was just a little bit polite to his big brother there.
Well, you see there's a clean start. The 2 Ferraris get off the line. Brotherly love, yeah. I think there was a lot of brotherly love there, but with Ralf giving way for Michael, because he could have really made a lot more of an effort there. The other problem as well was Trulli. The guy just didn't have any aggression there. We see from Trulli's in-car camera, there he gets a good clean start, but he doesn't have a lot of aggression going into the first corner at all. He doesn't defend his position. There you see Massa going on the outside of him. He gets a little bit of a swirl on there. Then his teammate Button's already on the outside. Then you've got Montoya again down the inside. So he's lost 2 or 3 places already. Because of that lack of aggression, he then gets caught on turn 2. You've got Kimi Raikkonen comes right round the outside of him. That's not good.
Well, What a weird mixture he is, isn't he, Jarno Trulli? Brilliant over one lap, but really dodgy in the races.
The guy's outstanding on one lap, one qualifying lap, but that doesn't make a complete race driver. And there's going to be a lot of questions, and he needs to deliver some answers.
Yeah, your man Montoya wasn't a happy fella today. Before the race, he said, you asked me what I've got troubles with. It's absolutely everything. And he had to come second to Raikkonen after the damage he suffered there.
Yeah, you saw there's some carbon coming off, a lot of understeer in the car there. Kimi got up the inside of him on a corner. Controversy with Williams, Patrick Head and Sam Michael. A lot of frustration there with Montoya. I'm not too happy what's going on with him at the moment.
At the moment, Ralf Schumacher is the main man in that team, isn't he?
He's leading the way. It's took a swing again, isn't it? I mean, that's Formula One for you. You've got this guy who's strong, then all of a sudden it goes, question marks get raised. Rubens
Barrichello, he was always going to win this race today, I felt, because beforehand Michael Schumacher said, I'm not going to push him off, I'm going to keep him honest, but we always got the impression that Rubens would come through, and there was a stop, his second stop, and again, looking at it very coldly and dispassionately. If it had wanted to, perhaps Michael, if it had been any other colour car, Michael could have got past him.
Well, if it had been any other time in the season, you know, Michael's already world champion. For me, it was all a little bit too friendly. Nothing away from Rubens Barrichello, outstanding job. But, you know, Michael just looked like he was just giving way.
What do you make of Rubens Barrichello's chance of finishing second? It looks pretty good now, doesn't it?
Yes, yeah, I think it's going to be. Michael will do everything he can to help him. Ferrari obviously now have gone and won the Constructors' title. The only other thing left is second for Rubens Barrichello.
And that does mean a heck of a lot to Ferrari, that Constructors' title, yet again, fourth time running.
Well, for Ferrari as a manufacturer of cars worldwide, for Fiat, you know, the parent company, for them to say they're the Constructors' champion in Formula One means a great deal.
I can't leave you without talking about Anthony Davidson, our rookie. I mean, he drove 166 laps in total here, over 409 miles. Goodness me, they worked him hard for whatever money he got.
Well, you know, I think he did a great job during the course of the weekend. A little bit disappointed when it came to the race. We see here he's being a little bit cautious and too polite. He's letting the Ferraris go by. He's a qualified Grand Prix driver now. He's on the racetrack. He deserves to be there. The problem you've got then, you back off. Your tyres get full of rubber, dust, then you've got to get them back up to speed again. What can happen is something exactly like this. He gets to a situation where he runs off the road, spins off, doesn't finish the race. I'm sure he's going to be thinking twice about what happened, but still a good effort.
It'd be an easier weekend for him in a couple of weeks' time in Spa, wouldn't it?
Certainly will. He's got one Grand Prix distance nearly under his belt, but, you know, don't take nothing away from the guy.
I think he drove the equivalent of nearly 2.5 Grand Prix here. Anyway, Mark, thank you very much indeed. So it is next stop, Spa, in a couple of weeks' time, the full service for you, qualifying live on the Saturday morning from 11:30. Big pre-race build-up from just after midday, and the highlights normal time just before midnight. Ferrari celebrate their latest success. One man will be sleeping very soundly tonight, the workaholic Anthony Davidson. Welcome to the big league. Good night.